Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining Home Ownership by Dr. Yas Anderson. I'm going to be your host today. I'll be presenting. Again, I'm Dr. Yas Anderson, founder of Yes to Yas Consulting and Yes to Yas Global DR. I am currently an international real estate agent with EXP Realty Punta Cana. I have flipped more than 300 properties in the United States and funded over $150 million in real estate transactions prior to going global. So, again, welcome. Today's class and presentation is going to be about home ownership, and we all know by now the importance of home ownership, and not just the importance, but primarily the benefits of home ownership. As you learned in previous classes, home ownership is the gateway to financial success. It is the foundation of building wealth because you have ownership, you have a asset that is appreciating in value. So you have the ability to use that property to leverage. Okay. Can someone write down and put in the comments leverage? That is a term you'll hear me use frequently, because on your wealth journey, it is very important that you learn how to not only have assets but leverage your assets. Okay, so let's just jump right into it. Today's class is going to be short and sweet, but very, very informative. You're going to have information today that you can take with you and start your home ownership journey. You may be renting today, but tomorrow you can be building equity and legacy. Okay, that is the goal when building wealth. You want to have those assets that not only have equity but continue to build equity so that you can have that long lasting legacy to leave behind for generations to come. Now, you know, the Bible says the earth is the Lord's, okay? And he has given us dominion. Can somebody say amen? Okay. That means land, homes, and investments are part of our divine inheritance. So, that is in the word, in the book, the word of God. So it is your duty, okay, to own the land and have dominion and become a home owner so that you can start breaking those chains and generating wealth for you, and not just yourself, you and your family. Okay, that's what this is all about. This is why we want to build something lasting and why we desire these things, because it's not just for us, it's for, what we leave behind. Okay, so again, I told you it is the foundation of wealth. For many people, the first thing they did was bought their primary residence before they began real estate investing and starting to invest into real estate. That's when you get additional properties outside of your primary residence or your primary home that you purchase to live in. So, with home ownership or owning a home, why it matters is simply because of these three things: the financial security, as I stated, having the ability to have leverage against that asset that's building equity over time. And, we all know what equity is. Basically, the asset is increasing in value. So it's worth more than what you owe left on it or what you're paying. So that is your margins or your profit or your equity. So this gives you financial security. If you have loss of income or anything, you can do different things when you own a home. You can leverage it by borrowing money against it. You can pull the equity out and still live in it. So it gives you, like I said, financial security. not to mention the amazing tax benefits. When you're a homeowner, you get a lot of tax benefits and write offs simply because you're a homeowner. One being your mortgage interest. So, what you're paying in interest can be a deduction on your taxes. So, again, write this down. Financial security is one of the main reasons we should be seeking, or why home ownership matters. Second, the generational impact, just what you heard me say previously. It's not about doing this just for yourself, because it's a journey. It's, you buy some of these properties, your first home, and you hold them. So you're keeping them to be able to build that legacy, to have something to leave behind. So we're breaking the chains, we're breaking the curses, okay, so that of poverty, so that the next generation doesn't have to come up the same way we did, or even worse off, because they're starting from ground zero. Other ethnicities and other groups of people, they don't have this problem because they teach their families and they talk at the dinner table about finances and financial success. So, us as a people have to start talking about this and educating our kids about it, a little bit at a time. Just give them enough that they can handle. And as they develop, you teach them more. But you don't want to keep having generation after generation starting over from zero, starting over with nothing. You understand what I'm saying? So it's the generational impact as the first step to breaking those generational cycles. That's the number one thing, breaking that cycle and not having the next generation, just come out here and trying to figure it all out with no guidance, no one who had previous experience to teach or show them the way. Okay. So the house isn't just a home, it's a legacy. It is a legacy asset. And that's how you have to look at it and think of it in your mind. Shift your mindset to think of it as that. And that way, you will start taking the necessary steps and being diligent and intentional about what you're doing so that you can have this legacy asset. Okay. The stories, people, I'm sure you've talked to people or seen people, they purchased their first home, or you may have heard their testimony. It's life changing. Okay. It is a transformational, thing in life, because it really sets the tone and gets you on that journey or on that path to financial success. So write that down. The second thing why home ownership matters is the generational impact. Generational impact. That one is just so important for me, okay? As a mom of one. So moving right along, guys, the third thing why home ownership matters is the emotional and social value, okay? Like I said, think about someone, a family member or friend, when they purchase their first home. It's the pride of ownership, instability, the belonging, and of course the community, right? The community. But you have to psychologically shift your mind from tenant to owner. And let me tell you something, it definitely changes the game for you. It changes the playing field, because now you get to make certain moves that you couldn't once make before. Okay. So, home as a reflection of identity and vision. Okay. And vision. So let's move right along. I hope y'all are enjoying the class thus far, and you are taking some notes so you can start your home ownership process. And if you're renting right now, your rent should be reporting on your credit report every month. You should be looking up different rent reporting agencies to have your rent reported to your credit, because it weighs the weight just like a mortgage. So if you're paying 15, 1600, 2000, what have you for rent, those are mortgage payment numbers. You need to have some type of rental service reporting that. It's a small fee monthly, and they can go retroactive, go back as much as 3 years. So, we'll talk about some of those requirements again to obtain a loan. And a lot of times they want to see, credit, or, things that you've been paying on time, or they want to see rental history. That is one way to get it. Again, it can be retroactive, I believe, up to 3 years, 3 to 5 years. So the keys to successful home ownership are the financial readiness. Okay. Basically, just what I gave you, that extra tip, being prepared, to get funded for your home loan. So, the number one key to a successful home ownership process is going to be financial readiness, that credit health, that credit health, that credit health. Okay. All of this ties together. Okay. Your savings, your budget, and planning. You have to do this if you want to get the bank to loan you, $250,000 or more, depending on where you live, what it's going to cost you for, just an average 3 bedroom, 2 bath home, 2,000 square feet or so. Again, how much home can you afford? So, that's going to all depend on your income, your debt to income, and your credit. How much that's going to determine how much you can afford. So you want to definitely avoid different, traps and things like that, debt traps that are going to get you in a situation that's going to cause you to be not fundable. Okay. Second, you want to choose the right property. You want to choose a property in an area or a location where it has growth potential, okay? And it has your lifestyle needs, all right? Because you want to, be in a community, you want to live somewhere or have a home somewhere where you like and want to be. The last thing or the worst thing can do is purchase a home somewhere, an area that you don't like. Okay. You don't want to, buy far out away from everything. If you like to go to these different types of shops or businesses. So that's very important. That's something you'll kind of work with your real estate agent when it comes down to planning and location and stuff like that, and the importance of that. And then, of course, your inspection and due diligence. You want to always make sure your agent is getting you help or assisting you, and you're doing your due diligence and making sure you're having the property, of course, inspected. So, common mistakes, though, to avoid, I would say, would be rushing into home ownership without a strategy, because you don't want to rush into this and find yourself being let down or disappointed. So that's why you must follow these steps so that you could have a good outcome. Okay, so don't rush into it without understanding the process, and overlooking those hidden things that you need to know before you start this process. you know um it's it's not, let me say this, it's not a hard or difficult process, but it does take some time and attention. Okay, now, before I go into the legacy connection, I just want to give you some facts and requirements for your primary residence for home ownership. Okay. So there are three different types of loans available for you to purchase your primary residence, your home. So we have FHA, FHA loans are typically used for clients or buyers who have a little bit of challenged credit. Now, FHA will go as low as 580. However, the sweet spot for FHA would be 620. A credit score of 620 is the minimum, and you're going to be required to put down 3.5%. Okay, so write that down. FHA 620. um, you can have some challenge credit, and they have different programs available. Those loans can take some time though. And then you have the VA loan for veterans. VA loans are 100% financing. So there is no 3.5% for your down payment that you have to come to the table with, or 5% or anything like that. Again, VA loans for veterans are 100%. And, typically your score needs to be a 640. They will go as low as 620, but 640 and above is the sweet spot. Now, this third loan that's available for primary residence home ownership is called the conventional loan. Now, the conventional loan, the better, the better your credit, you get the best favorable terms. So they want your score to be on this one a minimum again of 620, but the higher, the better. Okay, the higher your score with a conventional loan, the better for this type of loan. Now, if you qualify, you can get 3% down payment, 3% down if you qualify. This loan is called the Home Ready Loan, and it's a conventional loan. So those are your three loan types, and those are the requirements, something for you to think about. Um, for you to think about before you start your process. Okay. So now we are going to just touch a little bit on the expansion into wealth, which is investing. Like I explained to you before, your primary residence is like your first home you buy that you're going to live in. So once you buy a secondary home, those would be considered investment properties. And the loan types change once you start buying multiple properties. Only the first property can be bought the way we just explained. Now, these properties will be, bought with investor loans. Okay. So let's just talk a little bit about the legacy connection, the expansion into wealth, which is the investing. Okay. So ownership is more than just comfort. It is a spiritual responsibility. The land you acquire is not just for you, okay? It's the seed that God entrusts you with to multiply for generations. It is our responsibility, our duty, our spiritual responsibility to do this. So I want to point that out because I need for everyone to really understand the real value and the importance of this connection to legacy. The land you acquire, again, it's not just for you, it's for your children's children's children, meaning so that we can multiply it for generations to come. All right. Transitioning into investing, once you own one, you can always leverage it to acquire more. So, like I keep telling you over and over and over again, that first home is the gateway. That is the gateway to building your wealth. All right. Once you do that, that mind is going to shift. You're going to want to do it again and again. You're going to go from renting to owning, and you're going to have now an investor mindset. You want to shift from consumer to creator. You don't want to be just owning a home just for you to be living in the property. No, you want to actually now have yourself additional properties, and you're now collecting the rent. Okay. Why real estate? Because it is the Number one, most appreciating tangible asset. Okay, it's not anything digital or anything like that. It is tangible. No one can pick it up and take it away. Okay, faith and dominion. Faith and dominion. The parable of talents, God expects multiplication. He expects that of us. Okay, so we must invest in stewardship and into action. We must do that. It is our duty. Okay, so who's ready for home ownership? Who is ready to get on the path? Who is ready to get on the path? Okay. Now, some different types of real estate investments are residential, commercial, and land. Of course, land would be for pre construction when you're buying the land to build on it in the future. Commercial would be your retail offices, warehouses, and things like that, which are also great investments to have commercial property for rent. Okay. And then those residential properties, multifamily, up to 4 units, vacation rentals, Airbnbs, and so much more, short term, midterm, and long term rentals. So those are the other types of real estate investments. Okay, so that is the connection, guys, between home ownership and real estate investing. That is the connection. It's the wealth connection. Okay, it is the wealth connection. So you're going to start with your primary residence, and trust me, from there, you will want to own more. And that's when you really start to build wealth. All right. So, do anyone have any questions on home ownership? Do I need to repeat again the basic loan types or requirements? Do I need to repeat that again? Because it's very important for you to know this. FHA, again, 620 credit score minimum with 3.5% down. Okay, you can have a little bit of challenge credit. Those loans take a little bit of time, but they will work with you on those challenges with the 620 and 3.5% down. Veterans, VA loans, any veterans in class today, 100% financing, 640 or higher. And then with a conventional loan, the higher your score, the better. You can qualify for the home ready loan with 3% down. And your score, the minimum has to be 620, 5% down typically. But again, if you qualify and have a higher score for the home ready loan, you can put down just 3%. So that's the takeaway from this. And of course, the importance, the importance of it to build that legacy, to break those chains, okay, those chains on our families, and expand and multiply, expand and multiply your assets for generations to come. So if there are no questions about home ownership and the connection to investing, that's going to conclude today's class on home ownership. Again, I'm Dr. Yas Anderson. You can find me on all platforms, Yes to Yas or Dr. Yas Anderson, and follow me for more real estate tips and global real estate investment tips. Again, I thank you all for participating today, and I'll see you at the top.